Ladies and gentlemen, please give a hand to a leader in the conservative movement, the author of Leave Us Alone, and president of Americans for Tax Reform, Grover Norquist.
After the 2008 election, our friends on the left had some helpful advice for us. They suggested we move to the left, that we stop talking about taxes and spending. It was, in fact, very similar to the advice they gave us after Goldwater lost in '64, after Watergate in '74, after Clinton won with the Democratic House and Senate in '92. The other team always cheerfully advises us not to be us. They say, please stop talking about taxes. Nobody cares about taxes anymore. This reminds me of the scene late in the movie where the bad guy says to our heroine, put down the gun and we'll talk. And if our heroine is foolish enough to put down the gun, he goes for a throat and the movie goes on for another 45 minutes. They give us this advice because they understand that what strengthens the center-right movement, conservative activism, is our opposition to big government, our support for liberty, our desire to have lower taxes and regulation, and more freedom. Look, our coalition holds together because everybody here and everybody who walks into a Republican precinct or becomes a Tea Party activist are there around the table for different reasons, but they're all there because on the issue that moves their vote and that brings them to politics, they want one thing from the federal government. They want to be left alone. Go around the table. Taxpayers, don't raise my taxes. Businessmen and women, don't tax or regulate my job, my business out of existence. I serve on the board of the National Rifle Association. Gun owners who vote on the gun issue simply wish to be left alone. They don't go knocking on doors insisting that everybody else be a hunter. They don't ask for gun stamps. They don't require that every fourth grade child in a public school system be taught books entitled Heather Has Two Hunters. Around the table, homeschoolers, again, simply wish to be left alone to educate their own children at home. All the various communities of faith in the United States that don't agree on who gets to heaven or how, but they do want to be left alone to practice their faith and raise their kids, and that's what's important to them, and that's why our team can be ecumenical. We have evangelical Protestants and conservative Catholics and Orthodox Jews, Muslims and Mormons who don't agree on who gets to heaven or how. And when our guys sit around a table, we don't agree on everything. The guy who wants to make money all day looks across the table at the guy who wants to go to church all day and says, that's not how I'd spend my time. And they both look over at the guy who's fondling his guns and says, that's not what we do with our free time. But it's not necessary that everybody on our team agree with how we spend our free time and our freedom, simply that we want to be free. We tend to vote for the guy in the middle of the table who says, I'll leave your guns alone, your family alone, your faith alone, your business alone, your taxes alone. I'll leave you alone. And by the way, being left alone means having a reasonable police force and a military strong enough to keep the Canadians off our back. But one of the reasons the Liberals never like cops in the military is that they are part of they're the part of the government that is part of the Leave Us Alone coalition. Now, we're up against the other team. This is the Takings Coalition around Hillary's table, recently stolen by Obama. You have everybody's there because they want the government to go steal stuff from other people and give it to them. Trial lawyers, please let us step into the middle of every contract and steal and sue people for money. The big city political machines like Chicago, which now runs Washington, D.C., the two wings of the dependency movement, those people who are locked into welfare dependency, and those people who make $90,000 a year, managing the dependency of others, making sure none of them get jobs and become Republicans. We have the government workers' unions. We have the various coercive utopians. These are the people who want to use the power of the state to make the rest of us perfect in their eyes. The radical environmentalists who have invented cars too small to put your entire family into, toilets too small to flush completely. And they've set up so that on the Sabbath you have to separate the green glass from the brown glass, from the white glass for the recycling priests. They have a whole list of things, thou shalt and thou shalt nots, that they want the government to enforce. Their list is slightly longer and more tedious than Leviticus. And they simply want, and they want the government to enforce it. There's not a list of suggestions, by the way. There are fines and guys with guns behind each of their little to-do list for the rest of us. So they come in, and the guys around the left table can work together as long as we're stupid enough to keep putting tax money in the center of the table. If we keep putting tax dollars in the center of the table, they can get along like the scene after the bank robbery. One for you, one for you, one for you, one for you. If, however, we say no more tax increases, no more ridiculous spending, and make it stick, and the amount of money in the center of that table begins to dwindle, then everyone around the left's table begins to look at each other a little bit like the second to the last scene in those lifeboat movies. They're trying to decide who to eat or who to throw overboard. The left is not made up of friends and cheerful allies. It is made up of competing parasites. If we don't let them gnaw on us, they will just as cheerfully gnaw on the guys sitting next to them. And our job is to say no to new taxes, no to new spending, so that when we meet the left 2 years and 4 years later in the next election, there are fewer of them and they are shorter. That's what the stimulus package was all about. It was putting $780 billion in the middle of the table, right? Now, so that they could divvy it up among their friends. Now, the theory they gave us was as follows. We're going to have the government take $1 from one side of the economy, either in taxes or in debt, and move from people who earned it, and give it to politically connected people over here. We'll do this 180 billion times, and we're all going to get rich and have jobs. Now, imagine if Obama, Reid, and Pelosi stood at one side of a lake with 3 buckets. And they dipped their buckets into the water, and they walked around to the other side of the lake and held a press conference with the TV cameras. And they poured the 3 buckets of the water into the lake and said, we are stimulating the lake to great depths. What we're doing is we're going to take water out of one side of the lake when the cameras aren't looking, and then we're going to pour the water into the lake over here. And after we do this 780 billion times, the lake will be deeper than it was before. Now, if you believe that that lake will be stimulated to have more water in it than it did before, then you will expect the stimulus package to work in terms of creating jobs. If you think that there's the same amount of water in the lake as before, minus whatever got stolen or spilled, then you would expect that unemployment would continue to grow after the stimulus package was spent. But of course, the stimulus package is a great success for all the parasites around the table. It's just not very good for the United States of America. Our friends on the left are a little bit frustrated as they see the country getting organized against them. They told themselves, they told us, we read in the newspapers about how they had this wonderful social organizing going on, and they were great on the web, and they were so good organizing things. When you read MoveOn.org's emails out, they say that contacts into Congress, letters, calls, emails, are running 15 to 1 against the government taking over health care. Where is their vaulted organizing? We do have a secret weapon on our team. It's a community organizer named Barack Obama, who, by threatening to double everybody's energy costs and raise your taxes and take over your health care and ration health care and tax your insurance to give welfare to other people, has organized the majority of the country against the Democratic Party, against Obama, Reid, and Pelosi. And he's done us a great... They don't have an organizer like that on their team. And we dodged one bullet when we didn't get depressed and go home, which is what the other team wanted us to do after 2006, 2008. Okay, you guys lost, go away, leave. We said, no, we're not doing that. Second, we got organized, the Tea Parties, April 15th, July 4th, the August Revolt. You know, every year they write on the national newspaper, something always interesting happens in August, and they never predict what it is. And after they look back and go, whoa, look what happened. This is what happened. We happened. But there's another mistake that we've avoided, and that is we have avoided the mistake that we made in 1996 and 1998 when we focused too much on Bill Clinton and his personal failings. Bill Clinton was a threat to the country because of the taxes and the spending and the regulations and the left-wing agenda that he supported then and he more clearly supports now. His personal challenges and personal failings were sad for his family. But too many of the spokesmen on our team got up and talked about Bill Clinton. We ran ads in 1998. Bill Clinton's a bad person. People said, yeah. But that wasn't an argument to vote against the Democrats in Congress who were implementing his agenda. This time around, we are focused on Pelosi, and we're focused on Reid, and we're focused on those Democrats in the House that are voting for higher taxes on energy and for threats to health care. And yes, Obama's the guy who signs the bills at the end of the day. He's almost irrelevant. The damage is done by Pelosi and Reid and the Democrats in the House and the Senate. If big government... If big government were a martini, Obama's just a vermouth. He's barely there. Let's keep our eyes, as we have been, on the damage that Pelosi, Reid, and the Democratic Congress are doing to our energy, our lives, our ability to function in this country, the future of this country, and the health care of our parents, ourselves, and our kids. Guys, we're winning.